Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. The topic that I will discuss is Chapter 5, Corporate Governance and the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. So this is the flow chart. It is composed of two sheets. The first sheet is all about corporate governance, and the second sheet is all about the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. I will discuss first the corporate governance. So, corporate governance is a concept that has recently received increased attention and is evolving. The purpose of corporate governance is to encourage the efficient use of resources and to require accountability for those resources. The aim is to balance the interests of individuals, corporation, and the community. So individuals such as shareholders desire high return on their investment, while the community desires responsible corporate behavior that benefits the community. At the same time, the corporation and those within it desire long-term preservation of the corporation. Often, the needs of these various groups conflict with each other. Thus, a different definition of corporate governance exists to cover each different aspect of interest. For instance, when economists define corporate governance, they recognize factors affecting the supply and demand of corporate leaders and tend to emphasize the importance of motivating leaders through the use of incentive programs. On the other hand, financiers tend to emphasize the role of corporate leaders to provide a good rate of return, while accountants focus on the responsibility of corporate leaders to provide effective internal controls, accurate records, and required disclosures. Next is history of corporate governance. So these are the acts involved here. Securities Act of 1933, Securities Exchange Act of 1934, Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of 1977. A related concept that is integral part of corporate governance is tone at the top. Tone at the top refers to the set of values and behaviors in place for the corporate leaders. It must be reinforced through each function of corporate governance, not only through written policies but through the actions and attitudes of the company's leadership. So, under corporate governance is corporate governance process. It has two branches. Participants in the corporate governance process and functions within the corporate governance process. The participants in the corporate governance process are often referred to as stakeholders. Stakeholders are all of the different people who have some form of involvement or interest in the business. They participate in or with the business in a manner that puts them in a position of financial interest or risk or is otherwise significant to the overall strategies and operations of the business. Stakeholders can be internal or external. In internal, it is composed of supervisors, managers and executives, employees, internal auditors, shareholders, board of directors, and audit committee. While in external, it is composed of investors, creditors, customers, suppliers, and regulators. So the management team of a typical corporation is often divided into layers: top management, middle management, and supervisors. Top management is made up of the company's president and chief executive officer or CEO, as well as the remaining executive officers. This generally includes a vice president for each functional area of the company. Middle managers coordinate a number of different departments or groups within the company by leading the supervisors in their respective areas of responsibility. Supervisors guide the work of a number of employees doing similar tasks within a given department or group. Employees carry out the day-to-day operations and administrative functions of the company. Internal auditors are employees of the corporation who help management establish and monitor internal controls by continuously looking for red flags. Shareholders own a portion or share of the corporation. As owners, they have the ability to influence the company by voting on significant matters. Board of Directors is elected by the shareholders to direct the corporation. Its role is to align the interests of shareholders and management, while Audit Committee is a subcommittee of the Board of Directors. The Audit Committee is responsible for financial matters, including reporting, controls, and the audit function. The role of the Audit Committee is discussed in more detail. External stakeholders are people and organizations outside the corporation who have a financial interest in the corporation. The communities in which corporations are located have a stake in those corporations because of their impact on social, environmental, charitable, and employment practices in their areas. Investors are those who have an ownership interest in the company or who consider obtaining an ownership share. Creditors are those who help finance the company by lending money. They are genuinely interested in the company's financial health because it determines the company's ability to repay its obligations. Customers purchase the company's products and services, as suppliers provide the resources needed for the company to do business. And regulators are important stakeholders in the corporate governance process because they are responsible for the laws and guidelines that govern the company. So, these are the most influential governing bodies in the area of corporate governance, including SEC, the Treadway Commission, Financial Accounting Standards Board, and International Accounting Standards Board. The corporate governance process is composed of several interrelated functions, including management oversight, internal controls and compliance, financial stewardship, and ethical conduct. Management oversight encompasses the policies and procedures in place to lead the directorship of the company. The goal of corporate governance with respect to internal controls and compliance is to ensure that financial information is accurate, transparent, and complete. Accuracy relates to the correctness of the information presented. It is concerned with whether the financial information is verifiable and proper. Transparency relates to how clearly the financial information can be understood. It requires a straightforward and consistent approach, while completeness is concerned with avoiding omissions and important information. Financial stewardship. Corporate governance is focused in the roles of managers and directors who hold unique positions of responsibility. Managers and directors have a fiduciary duty to the stakeholders of the company. A fiduciary duty is a special obligation of trust, especially with respect to the finances of another. Financial stewardship refers to the manner in which an agent handles the affairs and or finances of another, while earnings management is the act of manipulating financial information in such a way as to shed more favorable light on the company or its management than is actually warranted. Ethical conduct. It should be clear that creating a culture of honesty is a fundamental part of the model of effective corporate governance. Integrity, fairness, and accountability are the underlying concept in each of the other roles of corporate governance, including the description for sound systems of management oversight, internal controls, and financial stewardship. Because of its widespread relevance, ethical conduct is often valued as the most important part of corporate governance. So next is the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 was signed into law on July 30, 2002 for the purpose of improving financial reporting and reinforcing the importance of corporate ethics. The legislation was enacted in an effort to curb the corruption and accounting blunders that had been recently discovered in connection with the bankruptcies of such corporate giants as Enron and WorldCom. This act includes 11 titles or categories of provisions. Each title includes several sections. These are the titles and the sections. Under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 is its impact on corporate governance. The Act has resulted in widespread change in the corporate environment as it involves all of the participants and functions within the corporate governance process. Much attention is placed on the roles of corporate leaders and their diligent involvement in the company's financial information. Many responsibilities of management and the board of directors have grown in importance, especially with respect to oversight, maintenance of effective internal controls to support compliance, and increased focus on financial stewardship and ethical conduct. Gone are the ways when corporate managers and board could perform solely the task of strategic decision making. The Act requires these corporate leaders to be well versed in many details of the company's financial systems. This is the flowchart under management oversight. Managers and supervisors, corporate officers, board of directors, audit committee, and PCAOB. Under ethical conduct are codes of conduct, performance evaluation models, and communications. So that's all. These are all about Chapter 5 Corporate Governance and the Sarbanes-Oxley Act.